Hey, my name's Alex. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you exactly how to initiate a spiritual awakening. Yes, really. The reason I'm making this video is I've seen a lot of confusion out there about this subject, and I don't want anyone to unnecessarily be on the wrong path. Some creators are saying that an awakening or enlightenment experience has to be this big, huge, monumental shift in awareness, giving rise to the idea that awakening is some kind of exotic experience, seemingly placing it out of reach for those who feel their current experience is anything but exotic. And searching for some kind of exotic, mind-blowing spiritual awakening experience actually just puts you further away from it anyway. There's others that say there isn't anything you can do to initiate awakening. It just happens spontaneously and that's that. And they deny the causal link between being exposed to certain information and awakening following. And yet there is absolutely something you can do to initiate a spiritual awakening. Yes, awakening can happen for some people spontaneously, but many others feel that their awakening was triggered after exposure to some book or information or teacher or guide. And I think a lot of this confusion happens because language gets tricky when you're talking about spiritual awakening. For example, when I say some people wake up, it's not ultimately the person that wakes up. The question really is who or what is going to wake up. Who you think you are can never wake up because it's made out of thinking. The sense of self that you believe yourself to be can never wake up because it's ultimately illusory. Ultimately, it's as if awakening awakens to itself, or awareness becomes aware that it's aware. And so this speaks to the particular path that we're going to explore in this video. You could say there are two kinds of paths to spiritual awakening. You have what you could call progressive paths, and they often involve some kind of refinement of the body and mind, perhaps physical yoga practices, specific meditations or mantras, perhaps training attention to concentrate on one specific object or a deity. And the idea of so many of these progressive paths is that once the body-mind has been refined or trained enough in a certain way, then the right conditions for self-realization, the right conditions for awakening to the true self and being able to stabilize in that self-knowing are present. And then there's what we could call the direct path, which is taught in Non-Duality teachings and Advaita Vedanta. And there's a whole bunch of spiritual teachers, either alive today or in recent times, whose teachings speak to this path. People like Rupert Spira, and Eckhart Tolle has this at the heart of his teachings. And they were both influenced by Indian sages such as Sri Ramana Maharshi and Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj and Krishnamurti. And the reason why I can't say I, Alex, am awakened or enlightened is because that illusory separate sense of self in the mind proves out to be just that, an illusion. That's what turns out to be the dream. So, why is it called the direct path? Because the teaching talks about the direct path to the self with a capital S, the essential self of which nature is peace and happiness. That's what you're awakening to. The direct path instructs us to find out who we really are by pointing us towards it. It instructs us to become aware that you're aware, to become aware that you are the timeless, formless space in which your experience unfolds. Before awakening, it can really feel as if you're this flicker of consciousness behind the eyeballs. It can really feel as if you're this separate sense of self in the head, within the body, and I'm walking around in this thing called space-time. And it's made of matter. And it's essentially dead and dumb, like balls bouncing around, responding to predetermined mathematical paths. And I am this kind of moist meat sack that's emerged out of a rock in this whole machine, and I'm smaller than a grain of sand when compared to the whole thing, being completely separate and able to float off into nowhere, essentially unconnected from the whole. But non-duality and the direct path say different. It says, let's go direct to our experience to find out if that's actually true. Let's verify what's true from our experience, not just ideas, concepts, and cultural beliefs. For example, before awakening, there's a belief that your mind or your awareness appears within your body. Whereas if you actually go to and inspect your experience, it's actually your body appearing within your awareness. In fact, if you look for long enough, you'll see that everything unfolds within your awareness, this timeless, formless space. And this awareness is you. The direct path instructs us to become aware of yourself as this awareness and abide or rest as this awareness, as yourself. Awakening from the dream of thought, awakening from the dream of feeling like you're the separate sense of self. Sri Ramana Maharshi told people that in order to awakening, they should ask, who am I? But not as something to intellectually dwell on, instead using it as a pointer back to one's true self, in a way contemplating what I essentially am, inquiring into who or what I essentially am. This became known as self-inquiry, giving sustained attention to the felt presence of I am awareness. Who am I isn't something to be considered with a thinking mind. It's instead designed to stop the thinking mind so that what's already here, this presence of awareness, this pure consciousness, is revealed. Another way of revealing the true self is to use the ancient Neti process, which translates to not this, not that, which is the process of going through different things in your experience, finding out that they're not essentially you, eventually negating everything in your experience that's not essentially you, until only the essential self remains, clearly shining. We're very conditioned in our culture to identify with the body and the mind, to think, I am this body, or I am this mind, and that blocks us from awakening to our deeper essence. The Neti process instructs us to look at our experience and inspect these beliefs. For example, I am the mind. Well, is that true? Let's inspect our experience. The mind is made out of thinking, and so if thinking were to disappear, would you disappear? No. If the thinking disappeared, you, this awareness, would remain, silently watching. Or, I am the body. Well, this body is made out of what you can see of it and various bodily sensations. That's your actual experience of the body. What you can see and these sensations arising in this spacious awareness. But imagine if those were removed, what would be left? Just this awareness, this spaciousness. Rupert Spira suggests that we simply become aware that we are aware, and remain knowingly as this awareness, as what we essentially are. And we're calling it the essential self because it's the one thing that's essential to you. Your thoughts can't be essential to you because if they were to disappear, you wouldn't disappear. You would remain this timeless, formless awareness. Your feelings can't be essential to you because if they were to disappear, you wouldn't disappear. You would remain this timeless, formless awareness. Between two thoughts, you remain. Between two feelings, you remain. Become aware of who you are between two thoughts and feelings. Give that your attention. Give yourself attention. This really is the ultimate version of giving attention to yourself. This is the direct path to spiritual awakening, the direct path to awakening to your deeper, authentic, essential self. Non-duality suggests that although there appears to be a multiplicity and diversity of separate things, there is at their essence, one underlying reality. Just like the separate waves of the ocean have the appearance of being discrete things, there is the one reality of the ocean that underlies them. They are made out of nothing but the ocean. Just like with a movie, there is this dance of movement of all the discrete forms, the people, the objects and the buildings, but they all appear within the screen. In fact, they are made out of nothing but the screen. The screen is the one underlying reality. And in the same way, non-duality suggests that there is a single indivisible underlying reality to everything, and part of awakening is awakening to this. Sometimes awakening comes with surrender to emotional pain, accepting the seemingly unacceptable, allowing what is to be as it is, and accepting it on a deep inner level, completely dropping resistance to what is. These can all be extremely powerful when it comes to awakening, because it's the non-acceptance that's generating the mind activity, then the identification with the mind activity, perpetuating this sense of self in the mind and a feeling of separation. It's the inner resistance to what is that generates these bodily contractions which build up as tensions and an unnecessarily jacked up nervous system. It doesn't mean that you don't do anything about situations in your life, but it means that you open up yourself to the broad spectrum of your experience and surrender to the flow of bodily sensations on a deep inner level, allowing what is to be as it is. Awakening can be accelerated when you relax and you slow down the breath, turning up the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's rest and digest response, turning down the sympathetic nervous system activation, the fight, flight, or freeze response, bringing the body into states of calm by consciously relaxing the muscles and being with your bodily sensations, breathing through the nose and using the full range of the diaphragm to move the air in a smooth, circular fashion, slowly and softly. And then putting the attention on this deeper self, knowing oneself as the presence of awareness, investigating the nature of awareness, investigating the experience of being knowingly this presence, this beingness. Sri Ramana Maharshi called it sinking the mind into the heart, but not the mind as in the brain or the heart as in the physical heart, sinking the attention into the heart of awareness, spiraling down into an ever deeper resting in oneself as our essential self, as awareness. And along this path can come a moment where the sense of yourself as a separate entity in the mind dissolves. There's an awakening from the dream of thought. You realize you weren't who you thought you were, and the awakeness that you really are awakens. There never really was time and space, because time and space all played out within this timeless, formless infinity, this timeless, formless screen of awareness on which the objects of awareness dance and move and arise and decay. And then, as you investigate your experience more and more, and investigate who you essentially are more and more, the apparent separation between what is known and the knowing of it collapses. You realize that at the deepest level, everything that is known is made out of nothing else but the knowing of it, and that you are this pure knowing. You realize that what you essentially are, this awareness, is essentially peace itself. Investigate your actual experience. Has anything that's moved through this awareness ever harmed or disturbed this awareness? No. This awareness that you essentially are, when you really investigate it, remains untouched by all forms that have arisen and decayed within it, however intense. So you realize that at the core of your being is undisturbable peace, and it's always there, instantly accessible, because it's everywhere, and it's what you essentially are. You just have to be knowingly who you essentially are, asking yourself, who am I? Who am I really beyond all name and form? Who am I between two thoughts? Am I aware? Remain aware that you're aware, and then see what happens. This is the direct path to spiritual awakening, so I hope I delivered on my promise for this video. If you found it helpful, please share and spread the word. The more of us who have access to information on awakening, the more of us can feel empowered to act on behalf of who we really are: peaceful, compassionate, confident and connected, pure awareness, knowingly part of the whole, so acting on behalf of the whole. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new videos helping you with conscious personal growth.